Welcome to Zach's Contraptions, your source for everything Rube Goldberg. I'm the Zach of Zach's Contraptions, funny enough, and I'm here to answer any Rube Goldberg related questions that you might have. Joining me tonight is Fred, who won't be answering any questions, but I challenge you, if you're familiar with him, leave him in the comments where you know him from, and if you don't, well, check out some of my videos because he was in one of my latest Rube Goldberg contraptions. With it, if you're new to one of these question and answer sessions, basically feel free to shout out any question you might have. I'm going to stop my presentation. I'm going to answer your question. But throughout it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a bunch of different kind of logistical questions having to do with, well, the Rube Goldberg Machine contest and all the other various Rube Goldberg elements that I do, because I'm the national contest director at the Rube Goldberg Institute. I'm the one that writes all the Rube Goldberg, the rule books. I'm the one that coordinates everything. I've been doing this for quite literally 32 years, building some of the most famous contraptions on Earth. So I am your source, literally, for anything Rube Goldberg. So again, leave your comments. Thank you to Andrew from Fredericksburg, and Pumpkin Spice from Durham. I think I know who you are. You're from the Young Inventors program. One of them is one of our regional hosts for the contest. The other sent me a message, who I believe is from an engineering school, and I think you have some questions that you might want answered. What I'm going to do, however, I'm going to run through tonight's agenda, which, like I mentioned, answering all questions that you might have. But if not, I'm going to go through everything else. I'm going to cover all the Rube Goldberg contests that we offer. And the Boilermaker Rube Goldberg team, a fan favorite of everyone's. Also, they are a big part of the Rube Goldberg Machine contest. What I want to also encourage is teams to start registering. And there's a big reason why. I'm going to show you how to register. But if you don't have a host yet, or if you've already registered and you're looking for a host, also, if you're here and questioning whether you want to be a part of that, I'm going to show you how to host the contest. Those are going to be little elements tonight. Travel planning, because, well, the World Championships are coming up and we want to make sure everyone's prepared. We'll cover that in a more, basically when we get closer to the World Championships. But I just want to touch base on a little bit of the logistics for that. And then the main meat of tonight is really breaking down a specific page in the rule book, page 21. And that's for the Rube Goldberg Machine contest, the live contest, where it focuses on simple machines, energy transfers, and humor. Now, we'll get to all of that in a minute. So, pulling up, just going through, covering all the contest options. Well, Rube Goldberg Inc. has, well, the Rube Goldberg Institute, we have a ton of contests happening at the moment. Whether you're here for the main one, this is our flagship, the Rube Goldberg Machine contest, whereby teams physically build a live machine. You enter into a regional contest, and then you make your way to the World Championship at Purdue University. That's our flagship. It's amazing. It's incredible. I highly recommend literally everyone to do that. But we also do a lot more. There's a cartoon contest where if you're interested in drawing your Rube Goldberg machine, certainly there's people that aren't so good with their hands and trying to, well, I guess they are good with their hands with cartooning, but if they're not so good at building, but they're more artistic, that's certainly a contest available. The playground contest is one of my favorites, where you get to design your own playgrounds, much in the Rube Goldberg style, submit it. We're going to take one of those winners and we're actually going to bring that playground to life and donate that to a school or museum somewhere in the world. So really, really cool. And we also offer the Minecraft and Unreal Engine contest. Those are all happening simultaneously, but whatever contest you choose, I'm happy to answer any question regarding them because, well, again, I wrote the rules for all of them. So I don't know much about Unreal Engine. I'll be quite honest how the physicality of it actually works, but happy to answer how that actually goes through. So, like I mentioned, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are really looking for teams to start registering now because we are trying to pair you to your regional hosts. Because as teams register, that also shows us where we need to find hosts. And I'm going to pull up that page right here. Join our contest team registration. And there we go. So on this page, it's the very simple, very easy team registration form, whereby all you need is just one team member. If you don't have all your team members listed, labeled, if you're still gathering them, that's okay. You're more than welcome to change all that information. We're just basically looking for who your team is and where you're coming from. If you want to change some different things, that's totally okay. And also what division level you are. We're divided up into 4 divisions for the Rube Goldberg Machine contest: Apprentice, Division 1, 2, and 3. And those are the middle school, high school, and the collegiates, separated by the grades that you can see there. And we just want to know who that is because we want to make sure that we find a host suitable for you. If you're in any one of the 1, 2, or 3 divisions, you can only have a maximum of 15 team members and a minimum of 3. If you're apprentice, your minimum is 1. We started listing our regional hosts right here. So as you register, you can certainly choose which host that you want to be on. The hosts are still registering at the moment, so the list is, we're early. I'm not going to lie to you, but the list is going to grow. And if you don't see your host on here, simply just choose other and say, I'm from, wow, proving that I can't type. I'm from X, Y, and Z. We'll see that, and then we're going to try to sort out a host for you. With it, we're one of the lowest cost STEM competitions in the country, whereby for the apprentice teams, it's $49 for your entire team, and for divisions 1 through 3, it's $99 for the whole team, payable by PayPal, and that's it. Really, just showing us that you're a team, that you're out there, letting us know that you want to be a part of this contest is going to be huge, and that goes for any division. So really looking for people to sign up for that. If you're interested in being a host, send me an email, zach@rubegoldberg.org. And I'm actually happy to set up a Zoom call with you and cover all the basics, because we want to make this contest available to as many people as possible. And so in order to host this contest, we're actually letting hosts do this for only $25 this year. $25 to host it, get all of the materials to help run it. All you need is 3 teams from any division. And with it, obviously, if it's apprentice, you only need 3 students. So say Andrew from Fredericksburg, if you have 3 different teams and if you want to host your own regional contest, it's kind of a cool way where you almost guarantee that one of your teams from your school is going to make its way to the World Championship. Something definitely to consider. Again, it's an amazing experience, huge publicity, and honestly, it's a phenomenal STEM event, and we include all of the materials in order to get that up and running. From there, going back to the agenda, we're just moving right along because, again, covering the contest options, register, host, travel planning. So looking at this, the Rube Goldberg World Championship is on April 5th. And boy, that's 6 months away. You're probably thinking, why do I need to start thinking about it? Well, because if you're here, you're watching this, that kind of tells me that you're engaged in this contest. You have a passion, or you're trying to find out more information. And generally speaking, those are the people that make it to the World Championship. I'm not going to lie to you. You're actually seeking the information. So the World Championship, that's going to be April 5th at Purdue University, the Armory building. With it, we need teams to load in the night before, Friday, April 4th. And that's going to be from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So planning your whole, planning the event, needing that your school is going to need to come by, wherever you might be, driving, flying, what have you, needing to arrive on April 4th, setting up that night, and then the actual contest happening the next day. This year, for folks visiting, we do have hotel blocks. All of this material, by the way, you don't just have to read it really quickly. I'm just kind of showing it. When you do register, that's all included. We're going to send this to you. I'm just highlighting it right here now. But we have different hotel blocks where there's reduced rates if you do make it to it. I know it's a little presumptuous. It's a little early, but they're definitely, people that watch this. Some people watch this live, and a lot of people watch this after the fact. A lot of people do want to know this information, that where are you going to stay when you do make it to the World Championship? So here it is, but also check your registration email, because it's amazing how many people don't read all of that. And we literally spend hours trying to come up with all this information. But throughout it, just when you do register, all of this is going to be in there, with the airports that are nearby, what the food setup is going to be, where you need to park, if you're bringing a box truck, so on and so forth. The really brief thing that I wanted to highlight, though, is if you're looking to come, booking a hotel, start to look into it early. And the reason being is that Purdue is also doing their family weekend the same weekend as our World Championship. So hotels may start to get a little tougher when it gets kind of closer into the February range. And that is when a lot of our regionals occur. So I'm just trying to push this information out as early as possible. Again, basically that. Now on to the meat of it. Does anyone have any questions? Again, I'm happy to answer anything at all if you're familiar, not familiar with the Rube Goldberg contest. Going to it, kind of a brief summary of what we covered last week. The rules and specifications. The rule books are beefy. They're 31 pages, but they can be brought down to just one simple page. And it's basically the same across all the divisions. Apprentice is a little different with their size dimensions. They're 6-foot cubes, whereas 1 through 3, you're in a 10-foot cube. You do not need to fill that entire space by no means. There are the teams like the Boilermakers there who certainly, we're going to be measuring them down to the millimeter to make sure that they fit inside of their boundaries because they always reach it. But don't feel like you need to fit in that whole space. If you're an apprentice team, by certain, we will give you a table. You can put your machine on top of that. Everyone's guaranteed 3 runs. You're guaranteed 15 minutes reset in between your different runs. Like I mentioned, the team members, you only need a minimum of 1 for an apprentice just getting started, 3 if you're the higher divisions 1 through 3. Because this year, this task is, if you all saw, the feed a pet. So our grand task, the task that everyone in the world has to solve. Feeding a pet. Well, unfortunately, for the live Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, we can't have any real pets at the World Championship. Now, that being said, we actually have a couple of regional hosts who are currently in the sign-up process who might actually allow a real pet to show up in their facility. Now, if that is the case, if you are one of those people that has allowed that, I'm going to say it's in New York City. I'm not going to say who it is. We have a ton of teams from New York, by the way. But if you are lucky enough to be at that location, the pet can only be at the very end. It physically can't be in the machine. Your pet is allowed to be outside the machine and come up to however you choose to feed the pet. That's going to be a really special location. I'm not going to lie. I'm really excited for when they sign up because they're a cool host. But anybody else with it, think about it as trying to feed a pet. You're allowed to volunteer in your machine. You're allowed somebody to dress up. And that's going to be what we cover in a minute, the humor. And having a member of your team dress up as a pet, having any of those PLCs that we mentioned in one of the earliers, using those programmable logic controllers to maybe do an animatronic animal that goes into it, or whatever unique way that you want to do it. Just feeding a pet is the task, however you may do it. Just, without all help. From there, depending on your host location, you are allowed to have objects leave the boundaries because, well, I've always thought that a ball rolling out of the machine shouldn't cost you most of the points that you have earned, especially if you're working on these projects 6 months in advance. All of you watching, all of you here now are engaged and probably want to be a part of the Rube contest. It means you're putting in a lot of effort, and I don't want you to lose unnecessary points. So that's why that rule exists. Certain things, balls, water, in acceptable quantities are allowed to leave the boundaries. Things like that. Is there any questions on the rule book? If not, so if you are just new this week, I have an entire video last week where I covered page by page of the rule book. So certainly check that out. I don't want to go through the whole thing again tonight. But if you do have any questions from that, happy to answer them now, or simply check out the video from last week. What I do want to touch upon is this page. This is page 21 of the rule book. And it's very important. I think it's one of the most important in the rule book and why I'm singling it out tonight. Because this year, teams are going to be judged and refereed. So a lot of your points are coming from things that are on this page specifically. And it's really what makes it a STEM contest specifically is the incorporation of these simple machines and these energy transfer styles that we want teams in any division, apprentice through college. We really want you to focus on this year and kind of diversifying. Because when we talk about simple machines, there's 6 simple machines. Let's see if I can do it off the top of my head. Lever, pulley, inclined plane, wheel and axle, screw, and wedge. Yes, I did. That would have been embarrassing if I didn't know them. Well, you know what? They're right in front of me on the page. Let's pretend that I just read them off of that. Whatever. There's the 6 simple machines, and those are all mechanical energy transfers, meaning that you don't need anything electrical. That's just simple kinetic energy. Simple kinetic energy, where basically one object hits the next in some sort of fashion. And we're really focusing this year on teams diversifying, because what we do see a lot of is inclined plane, where something rolls off an inclined plane, which goes and does rolls and hits another thing off of an inclined plane. That's very, very common. And when I say thing, I actually more mean ball runs. A lot of people will build a ball run style machine, whereby a ball rolls off of a track and it hits another ball, which then causes something else to roll, and so on and so forth. And we find that some machines, they might have 40, 50 steps. and they're actually 90% inclined planes and wheel and axles. It's kind of crazy. So again, we're really trying to diversify that. Now, there's an entire video on how to include simple machines in your projects. So I can pull that up right now. That's on my YouTube channel as well. But it's literally a video showing you all the 6 simple machines, how to utilize them, what they are. So again, if you're an apprentice, if you're just teaching your students, if you're an educator, this is going to be one of those great things, showing them seesaws. But again, like just taking a look at this video really quick, just taking a seesaw, obviously, yeah, you can have something just tip, whereby you drop an object, goes up, it hits another object. Sure. What my goal of this video is showing it in a Rube Goldberg capacity, whereby you have a lot of different options with that seesaw. So I'm kind of talking over myself here in this video, but in the case where you lift the seesaw and that could release something, so definitely a different use of that. A seesaw also counts as a catapult, of course. And then a different way is where you're actually releasing the seesaw, and how it's being held up is a post. So you don't need something to fall on it, but in this case, the post is holding it up. We knock that out so a car could drive off the table, drops that, seesaw is created. And yes, it's a seesaw, and then you get an inclined plane and a wheel and axle, all kind of in the same one right there. Let's stop sharing. You get all 6 of those you get 3 simple machines right there off the bat. Basically, that video just shows you how to incorporate them, because a lot of students particularly don't know how to do scissors. They don't know how to do a wedge, which can be counting as scissors. Screw is one that we rarely see, and that's something that we really want to encourage in this contest. Does anybody out there know any examples of what we could use for a screw? Anybody? I know it takes a minute for the chat to come up. So I want to hear if anybody in the chat knows about what are some good steps that could be screws as well as wedges. Those are 2 of our hardest ones. Go back to the rule book right there. Again, so that's a really big focus. And that's only one subset. That's the mechanical. All 6 of those count as the mechanical category of our 7 different types of energy transfers. And out of those, we have mechanical. This time I am going to read it. We have mechanical, electrical, airflow, chemical, thermal, hydraulic, and erosional. Those are all the different ways that students can transfer their energy from one step to the next in their Rube Goldberg machines. Not simply just a car rolls and it hits another thing and it does another thing. We really want to see that diversification. We want to see them, challenging themselves, building with unique objects, and coming up with really, really cool things. And to better illustrate that is a page from my upcoming book. This comes out November 12th, by the way, so really coming up soon. It's the Rube Goldberg manual, so to speak, that teaches anybody how to build a Rube Goldberg machine at home using things that you have at home. And a big focus in the book is the types of energy and how to incorporate them in different Rube Goldberg machines. And, a lot of those might sound a little bit challenging at first. So it's like, oh, I said thermal, I said chemical. And probably if there's an elementary teacher, they're like, oh, nope, I'm out. And we find that it's absolutely doable. Thermal is the transfer of heat. So heat that is transferred through convection, conduction, or radiation. And in that case, you could think about it as a hair dryer, which melts a piece of ice. That ice can then fall on a piece of toilet paper. And right there, in that little bit, you have thermal, the hair dryer, which is melting an ice cube, which is going to be the hydraulic, something water-based. And that water breaks through the toilet paper, or it has to erode it. We're going to count those things, and that simple step right there counts for 3 types of energy, and that's going to get students most of the points for that category right away. And so, there's so many great tips in this book. I'm really proud of it. We spent 4 years making this thing. But as you can see, it's what sounds complicated at first. Again, mechanical is the 6 simple machines. Thermal, I mentioned, is a hair dryer. It can really be fairly simple. Airflow is a fan, or even if you have something, let's see if I can do side by side here. So even if you just have something falling and that's got to knock something over. So this is gonna be hard while I hold it, but that counts as airflow. You're gonna detail all of that in the step list that you submit to the judges. So don't think that the judges have to go, you will, we want you to identify them. Actually, I take that back. If you're probably watching this, you're the educator, you're the team captain. You know, as the team captain, as the educator, we're going to want you to help your students pick them out themselves and figure it out. And it's it really is one of those really good lessons plans. Have them identify the different simple machines, not even in their machine, but just all around them. So I personally love that lesson. Going back to that page, however, wow, I can change it. Fun fact, I just learned that I could move my head around all over the place. That's kind of cool. With it, so that was airflow. Chemical. Obviously, we have to be safe with chemicals, but there's one of the great ones whereby acetone, better known as nail polish remover, that can eat through styrofoam. And if anybody here has seen my TV show, Contraption Masters, check it out. It's on my YouTube channel. All the episodes are up there for free right now. But one of the teams in the 4th episode, they dump a bottle of nail polish remover, or acetone, into a styrofoam bowl, whereby there's a ball sitting on top. And let's remove this for a second so I can show. But basically, the acetone, got more props around me. Not like I don't have enough props all around, but basically you have the bowl sitting like this. You dump the acetone into the bowl begins to dissolve, and then the object inside simply falls out below. And that counts as a chemical reaction. We don't need anything super, super fancy in that regard. But we are looking for teams to get 6 out of 7 of these. If you get 6 of these different energy transfers, you get the full points. Another thing I didn't highlight this Q&A, but I did the last one. What we've really tried to do with this contest is make it so that getting a perfect score is not impossible, so to speak, but in past years, it was pretty easy to get a perfect score, and it actually made judging a little difficult. And now we've added so many categories to diversify things, to add more STEM components. And our real goal is that people can't get a perfect score unless it truly is a perfect machine. If you've ticked every box, if you've got all 7 different types of energy transfers, the 6 simple machines, if you have a volunteer in your machine, if you get the perfect runs, et cetera, and et cetera. We're really striving to, again, make it a more STEM-oriented event, because it certainly was before, but we had a real good look at the comments that people submitted to us from last year, and yeah, really incorporated a lot more into the contest. I'm really proud of the changes. Moving forward, the hydraulic, like I mentioned, that's just simply water-based. Let me tell you, water in a machine can be tricky, so do be careful. You're probably not going to be as complicated as I was, where we put a full-on waterfall on our machine. The Boilermaker team last year, they had a working waterfall that they shut off. I'm very proud of that because yours didn't spill all over the place. Water can be a very fickle step, so be very careful with it. You don't have to think of a sprinkler in this picture. Even an eyedropper full of water, that certainly counts. The question that I received once was chemical. Would a hydraulic step and a chemical step, if you're using the physical, if you're melting something with the chemical, so say the acetone, the nail polish remover, and the water, it would very much depend on the circumstance of how you're using it. But I think we are going to separate if it is chemical, if it's not H2O water-based, or basically if it's chemical, if it's doing a different property like dissolving or so on and so forth. We're going to call that chemical. If it's, say, like water or coffee, or I'd say soda, but soda you can use for chemical properties, it will be on a circumstantial basis. We have a question. Ace of Spades. Does the team leader have to be Does the team leader have to be a student participating in the project, or can it be the instructor? So team leader can be, so when you are registering for the contest, we certainly allow coaches, team leaders, what have you. Now, the team leader himself, if you are an instructor, you can't physically build the machine. That's a big no-no. It's pretty obvious when the teachers get in there, they build it for the students. When you get to the World Championship or the regional contest, the teams themselves should be the ones moving it into place. There are circumstances, of course, where it may need to be done, but you as the instructor, you're teaching the students how to do this. You're guiding them through the process, but you're physically, not going to be hands-on building. You're not going to be at, you're not going to be at the machine testing things over and over again. The team leader does not count as one of the members. Now, that being said, if you are a student, we do have the collegiate and the high school students. We do find that one of those members can also be the team leader. College especially, you don't need a higher up advisor. For middle school and apprentice, we do ask that that is instructor, a teacher, a parent, whomever, uh, be the instructor, be the team leader, and the other people are just the team members. Hopefully that answers your question. Kind of a long-winded answer. Um, oh yeah, hydraulic. So the coffee and soda and everything else. Electrical, pretty self-explanatory. With it, there are we've included programmable logic controllers into machines this year that allows teams to use a variety of new elements that we didn't let them use last year. Now with it, because you use it in the machine, so say that you have a light sensor and a ball trips a light sensor and that activates a clock in the sky and the clock starts turning around and around. Remember that PLC, if you remember from the last one, programmable logic controllers, those elements are for aesthetics only. They are not to be used in the chain reaction. So the light sensor turning on the clock, that clock can't then trigger the next thing in the sequence. So does that electrical sequence count? No, because it's not part of the chain reaction. In this little demonstration right here, it's easier to see in the full book, but this is a case of where a baseball falls onto a popsicle switch, which is attached to a plate. And as that flips on the switch on the surge protector, it turns on whatever the electrical object, and that certainly counts. Flipping on a switch, obviously anything electrical is pretty self-explanatory in this. Whether it could be in the, let's create a very simple machine of something rolls down a ramp. So the car rolls off a ramp, which hits the electrical switch right here, turns that on, that starts a vacuum, which then starts sucking the cat litter out of a trash can. Right there, you have the mechanical because of the rolling. You have the electrical because it turned on the electrical switch. You have airflow because it turned on a vacuum. And erosional, our final one, because, well, it's sucking the cat litter out of this bucket. And what you can do with this is you can put an object on top of, say, the cat litter. And as the vacuum sucks out all the material, that bucket's going to drop and drop and drop. That definitely counts as an erosional step. Like I mentioned before, that toilet paper, if that toilet paper crumbles in order to allow that ball to drop, that's also going to be an erosional step. I almost said electrical. That makes sense to everyone? Hopefully. If not, as always, if you have any questions whatsoever with these things, you can always reach out, zach@rubegoldberg.org. You can always attend another Q&A session. There's all these amazing things that we offer. Now, going back to this diagram, like I mentioned, this is the simple machines, the energy transfers. These are real things that we want teams and students to really focus on in their projects. And why that is because, well, we don't want students building a chain reaction machine. And what that means is a chain reaction is a step below a Rube Goldberg. Let's look at this category whereby, pull it up, I can pull this one up probably full screen. Yep. I'm not sure that really did anything, but you just lost my face out of it. With it, a Rube Goldberg machine sits at the top because it ticks the 4 boxes as to what a Rube Goldberg machine is. At the heart of it, a Rube Goldberg machine needs to solve a simple everyday task. For the contest, it's of course feeding a pet. It needs to have one step triggers the next, which is a chain reaction. It needs to be made of everyday objects. So we're not talking welding, we're not talking 3D printing the whole thing. We're looking for you to go dumpster diving and find parts that are laying around to build these contraptions. I'm just going to bring my face back into it because some people like to see it. Most people don't, but hey, sorry. With it, so again, the everyday objects. But then the last thing, what separates a chain reaction machine from a Rube Goldberg is this purple category right here, the funny and or ridiculous category. It needs to have humor. It needs to make people laugh. It needs to be ridiculous. And it's a hard topic to write in words. And I tried to sum it up in a paragraph down there, but one of the best examples is really watching different machines. Now, what I recently did, I was actually a part of an Italian show, and I can finally talk about it. I was just on the show Two Secavales in Italy, where I built a contraption in only 4 days. This machine was 40 feet long by 30 feet and roughly about 10 feet at its highest. I only had 4 days to build this contraption with a lot of planning in advance. And this was brought before a live group, a live audience, as well as a live panel of judges, very much like America's Got Talent. And I'm going to show you that clip here in a second, but I just want to set it up a little bit in that this project, I'm performing this in front of an Italian audience. Do I speak Italian? No. They've never seen a Rube Goldberg chain reaction machine. And, I need to communicate what this contraption is. I'll come back to my story in a second because we have another question here. So we have steps that split off into two branches. Is that allowed? It is allowed, yes. Is it ideal? No. Because with your step count, how it works is the machine path can only follow one path when we're counting it. So let's say that you release a ton of balls. Let's call it 100 balls go down a chute, and you have 50 balls go down one chute and 50 balls go down another chute. Some balls have to sit behind waiting here, and more balls go traveling, and they've got to hit a bunch of switches and levers. Basically, how the machine works is you have to count it in a linear sequence. The balls on the right will continue on. It's basically where the energy continues on to. So the 50 on the right that are continuing, they'll hit a lever, which then releases the balls on the left, which then causes the door to open, and then the balls on the left are now the balls in motion continuing on. So while, yes, you can have two branches, it can be confusing for the judges and the audience. And what I always tell people is you're putting on a show for people. It's, if you think about it, let's take these two pens, for example, very different color pens. You have this linear sequence, and then all of a sudden your machine splits off like this. And you have something going on over here, and then you have something doing it like this. Can your eyes focus on both things at the same time? No. And what we find is teams, when they try to do this, they'll have one object kind of go in the front and another part goes into the back. And you're going to lose the judges pretty quickly, and they're going to scratch their heads. And they might, when they catch up to each other, the judges will actually be pretty lost up until that point. So you're welcome to try it, and not to say that it's, end all be all, it's the wrong choice to do. However, if you are going to split it, keep it within a similar area is my grand suggestion. So hopefully that answered that. Let me know if it didn't. With it though, back to the two Secavales. This contraption, just, again, I don't speak Italian. This is, it's something that I'm trying to convey to this audience that, this is a Rube Goldberg machine and I need it to be that. And so how did I do that? I communicated humor. Let me pull up that video right here. So this is available now online. I'm going to post it to the channel shortly. Going back, and you're going to see it was kind of chaotic at the same time as well.
Donna regali per tre.
3, 2, also 1. I'm going to turn that off so I don't get the copyright sound on this because they put Ghostbusters. Again, they've never really seen a Rube Goldberg machine. Italy is not known for these different contraptions. The audience, everyone, it was just, the room was filled with laughter. If you watch the clip, you can hear the laughter, you can hear the judges' reactions. And I'm conveying that whole Rube Goldberg machine. I'm conveying it is a Rube Goldberg machine through the different things that I mentioned. It solved the simple everyday task. I gave her a bag of candy. It certainly was one step triggers the next. That's the whole gag of Rube Goldberg, essentially. It's made with everyday objects. You saw even that contraption. Big giant block of Parmesan and pizza paddle. I'm lucky I get to use pretty cool things. But like, the soccer net, those are everyday objects. But ultimately it was funny and ridiculous. I made these people laugh who had never seen this contraption. I gave a judge hair. I gave the big guy some pizza, but ultimately I gave him pizza that I had taken a bite out of it. You can incorporate this humor into your machines. And really that's what's going to sell it for the judges. You can add all the steps that you want to the machine, but if it's simply just a ball runs and it goes and it hits the next ball, which causes the next thing to fall down, and if it's just filled with balls and dominoes, it's not going to be a very well-liked Rube Goldberg machine. I'm proud to say that that machine is carrying me on to the next round, so yay. Because they really liked it. Even though it didn't work perfectly, it still was well-received, it was well-liked. Really proud of that contraption, in fact. So there's more to come, by the way. There's a lot of cool projects that I'm doing. So kind of stepping outside the contest, but How many judges will there be? That all depends. So for this one, how many judges will there be? That depends on your regional contest. Most regionals will simply have three judges present, and then you're gonna have one referee. The judges are all subjective based, it's all opinion based judging. There's 20 different categories that they look at, scoring 1 through 5. They're looking at how well you work as a team, how well constructed your machine is, how good of a presentation you're doing. Did your machine work or not? Or rather, what they care about is, will the machine, if there's a problem, so like say in my machine, the carpet failed to roll, and then let's say I got another chance. Did I fix the problem in between my setup, or did I just say, whatever, and I let it fail over and over? Or did my machine get worse each run? Judges are going to be looking at that. And there's 3 different judges to kind of balance each other out. Whereas there's a referee who is all objective based. Excuse me. He's objective based scoring, which means that he's looking at all fact based things. Is your machine within a set boundary? Does it have simple machines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And he's counting all of those different pieces. So at the very minimum, you're going to get 4 scoring panel personnel, but you can have up to 10 judges. We do allow up to 10 judges. And in fact, for the World Championship, we are going to try to have for each division between 7 to 10 judges. And that it balances out, because one person might really, really love a contraption. Somebody else might hate it. The more judges, the better. Next up, we have M from Corning. I'm working with 7th and 8th graders who are thinking to do online this year and build up to the live contest. Any advice? Should we use the live contest rules as practice? Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice I typically give. If you're working to get into the live contest, we do offer the online version, where with it, there's really one of the main differences is that there's no space restrictions. So I mentioned earlier that the machines have to be built, if you're apprentice, in a 6-foot cube, and if you're any of the other divisions, in a 10-foot cube. That's mainly for being portable. That's for making sure that we have enough room in our venue to fit everybody. But online, you have as much space as you possibly want. Now, if you are practicing and you have a bunch of 7th and 8th graders, keep them within those constraints. Keep them within those boundaries for sure. That's going to help you a lot for practicing. And even then, if you have enough of these students, like if you have, so you're 7th and 8th, so you would be in the middle school division. If you have 3 teams, your team, 3 teams of 3 students each, you qualify to be a regional location, and you could still continue on. It's even if they don't want to make it to the World Championship, there's still scholarship, there's prize money, there's trophies, there's accolades, just being involved with it. That it makes it more worthwhile to be part of the live contest than the online, because truly in the online, you're competing against thousands, literally thousands of people from across the world who submit. And I only showcase the top 20 at the end of the year, because it's just what we have time and bandwidth for. But with the live, if you want some of your students to proceed to that next level, Purdue University, the host of the World Championship, they offer college scholarships. So I always recommend the live contest more so than the online. But if you are looking to just kind of dip your feet into the water, online is also a really good choice. From Chances, are we allowed to use music and characters from cartoons in our machine? All depends. So, yep, I personally don't have a problem with it. In the past, we've kind of been a little about copyrights. For the most part, as long as you're not using the cartoons in a, we can say illicit way, or basically just don't defame the characters is a good way to put it. Like, for example, feeding a pet and whatever reason you have SpongeBob there, don't cut SpongeBob in half. Don't just, things like that. Certainly, whatever, with the music, I don't care too much about the music. But as long as you're not damaging the cartoons, as long as you're not, if there's a character face like that, if you're doing it in a funny or humorous way, that's okay. But just think of, the litigation and all that good stuff that might come after us down the road. The short answer is yes, but within reason. It's like everything else. It's when you go to school, you can probably wear, you can wear a cartoon character, but there's boundaries of what you should wear, what can be depicted on that. So that's a good question. Music, again, as long as it is appropriate, for your contests, you could have third graders all the way through college students there. Just something that's appropriate. No explicit words, of course, um, stuff like that. But yeah, it's totally fine. With a great question tonight. So thank you all very much. Thank you all for watching. By the way, again, my goal is to be as helpful as possible, mainly with the Rube Goldberg machine contest. But again, I'm a Rube Goldberg expert. I can answer anything. I can answer anything at all. What are the rules around depicting firearms? So this is an interesting one. Depends. I would say for this year, because especially we're working on feeding a pet, do they feel like they're aligned? Probably not. I would say let's steer away from that if at all possible. There's nothing explicitly saying in the rule book not to depict firearms. Obviously, for the love of God, do not put a gun shooting something in your machine. Rube Goldberg, cartoonist, he had that in his contraptions. He did that in a lot of contraptions where he used a gun to cut a string. Let me tell you, I tried it once. I only tried it once just to test the feasibility of it, and it did not work. And it was dangerous as all get out. So please, for the love of God, don't do that. You'll be right away. But as far as firearms, think of it as like this is a humorous cartoonist contest. If you're having like a fake gun and it goes bang, and the little flag comes out and it goes bang, that's okay. Just if there's any questions, if you have any questions at all, email me. I'm super available. I think everybody who's ever emailed me knows that, I try to get back to you within a day, if not an hour. Most of the time when I'm not working on TV or doing anything, I'm right here behind this desk working. So I'm happy to answer any emails whatsoever. But good question on that. Boilermakers, just don't get us in trouble. Any other questions? Anything that I can help people with? Again, my goal is just to make everybody comfortable. If you're really new to this contest, especially for the group, M from Corning, if you've never done this before, you're going to find that your students are going to fail. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in such that they're going to get it wrong over and over and over again. And they're going to get frustrated. And just that it's that perseverance. And really, it's that benefit of learning through that frustration, learning through that failure is the greatest benefit of this whole Rube Goldberg program. You saw on my two stake of olives machine, it failed. It failed at the end, but so what? That was a 45-step machine? It's either 45 or 65 step. I need to remember that. Yeah, 45. And 44 out of 45 steps worked. That's still a very passing grade. That's A. And the judges still loved it. The audience still loved it. So teaching students that it's okay if something goes wrong, learning from that, learning how to solve that problem. How can we make it better? If something's running off the rails, giving them that guidance to, hey, maybe bumpers are going to help. Or fix it, redesign it, or scrap it are the normal things that I tell people surrounding this contest. And it's why, as well, the difference between, so I'm going to pull this back up again, of you kind of call it practice between the live and the online. Live really puts you in that competitive spirit of when there's a problem, you need to fix it on hand. And let me tell you, there's always going to be a problem somewhere down the line. When you get to the contest, something's going to trip up and you're going to have to fix it last minute. It's just the nature of it. But it's really where the teamwork comes out and people start to work together. And there's such a better benefit with that versus online. Now, of course, when you're filming the online contest, you can stop, you can film it all over again, what have you. But, it's the live is just truly something special. And the online does its best, of course, and it allows the opportunity that anybody in the world can participate. But at the same time, the live just provides so many more benefits that the online cannot. So, if there are no more questions, again, like I said, I'm Zach from Zach's Contraptions. Reach out to me, zach@rubegoldberg.org, if you have any more questions. Zach's grandpa. Well, my grandparents are dead, but probably not mine. If you advance from the regional competition but are unable to make it to the nationals, so in this case, if you advance from the regional competition but are unable to make it to nationals due to financial reasons, what happens? So in that case, reach out to us. Again, we have Scholar. I quickly noticed, like, oh, that's a terrible photo of me. But we have scholarship opportunities available. We can communicate with Purdue University. Again, we're trying to make this accessible for anyone and everybody to be a part of this contest. So reach out to us. And even if you're not able to afford it, it's still a greater thing to participate in a regional contest. It's wonderful for the students to put on their resumes, to put on any of their college applications that they were a part of this contest. I'm gonna pull this down because it's just like such a lovely, flattering picture of me. So thanks. If we take distilled water and make it conductive, would that be considered hydraulic, electrical, or chemical? That is a great question. Ooh, I'm definitely hydraulic. That definitely counts as that. Definitely, if you're making it conductive, so you're actually having the electrical, if you're changing it to the point of where you're going to send electrical current through it. Now, of course, there's the chemical component where you're having the ions. I'll have to think on the chemical part of that. Right now, I'm leaning towards hydraulic and electrical. By no means does every step just count as just a single solid one. So like I showed in the example before of the how to make any Rube Goldberg machine. Let me pull this back up really quick. Cool. Share the screen. Let's go back to this one. So taking this example where this is actually that pencil sitting there, that counts as a wedge. So take the wedge is holding up that wedge, then turns it into a seesaw. So it's a seesaw or a lever. And then now it's also an inclined plane for a wheel and axle. In that simple action, you have 4 simple machines right there. And by the same flip of the coin, you can have multiple energy transfers with the same step. Kind of think of the vacuum with the airflow as well as it sucking out that cat litter demonstration. So, great question. Anybody else? Like, keep up the questions. Maybe not Zach's grandpa, only because I don't want to see my face again. Thanks for that, whoever you are. But it really is. It's Rube Goldberg machines are amazing. They're wildly fun. There's certainly the stress element to it, and why I love the contest is because you have to do it as a team. When I built it by myself in Italy, not speaking the language and trying to communicate with, a foreign group, I need a quick release, and they're just sitting there looking at me. And I'm not, for anybody that knows my handwriting, it's wow, that's just a white sheet. It looks terrible. I'm trying to communicate that with this group, and having a team with me would have been a great advantage at that time. So having team members who you can work with, it's why I absolutely love the Rube Goldberg contest. But before I leave everyone, just remind you that, again, if you want to be a part of the online contest, absolutely great choice. If you want to be part of our live flagship, that is one of our best. Again, the college scholarships, it's a world event. It's no longer the nationals, Zach's grandpa. It's the world championship, bringing anybody to it. The playground contest, just a phenomenal program. The cartoon contest, Minecraft, Unreal Engine, just so many cool options. With it, doesn't seem like anybody has any more questions, so I will stop yapping. The next live Q&A will be on, let's look at the schedule. Next one is, my calendar's decided to freeze. That is on Wednesday, November 6th. So if anyone has any questions, either save them for that or reach out to me via email, zach@rubegoldberg.org. I'm Zach with Zach's Contraptions. Everyone have a wonderful evening and hope this helped. Take care.